The moment my brother took the microphone at my wedding and accused my husband of cheating, I thought he had destroyed one day. By the next morning, I found out he had been quietly damaging my life for almost 2 years. I'm 29, and my older brother, Ryan, is 32. Growing up, Ryan was the person everyone rushed to protect. He was charming and always one step away from getting his life together. When he lost a job, there was always a bad manager. When he missed rent, there was always an unexpected bill. When he needed money, I was usually the person he called. Then I met Daniel. Daniel never told me to cut Ryan off. He only asked why every family emergency ended with money leaving my account. 6 months before the wedding, I stopped covering Ryan's rent and sending him money whenever he asked. He acted supportive, but his jokes became sharper. He kept saying Daniel was changing me. I thought he was upset about losing my help. I had no idea how much he had already taken. A week before the wedding, Ryan asked whether Daniel and I were combining our bank accounts after we got married. The question felt strange. Then he asked whether we were still planning to apply for a house later that year. I said yes. There was a long pause before he changed the subject. That pause stayed in my head, but I was busy with the wedding, so I let it go. The ceremony went smoothly. At the reception, Ryan was unusually quiet. He barely touched his food, kept checking his phone, and disappeared into the hallway several times. About an hour later, the DJ lowered the music because Ryan had asked for the microphone. I assumed he was giving a speech. Instead, he looked directly at me and said, "I can't let you start a marriage without knowing what he has been doing." The room went silent. Ryan pulled several printed screenshots from his jacket. They showed messages between Daniel and a woman named Leah. The conversation made it look like they had been meeting in secret. One line said, "Once the wedding is over, the money is ours." Another said, "She still has no idea." I looked at Daniel. His face changed from confusion to panic. He said the screenshots were fake. Ryan told him to stop humiliating me. My father stood up and ordered Daniel to leave. Daniel refused and asked to see the pages. Ryan shoved them away, and they started shouting. Guests began recording. My mother started crying. I was standing in the middle of my reception while more than 100 people watched my marriage collapse before the cake had even been cut. But one detail in those screenshots would later expose everything. I locked myself in the bridal room and studied the pages. They looked convincing. They had Daniel's photo, Leah's photo, dates, times, and details about our wedding. Leah worked in payroll at Daniel's company. I had met her once. Daniel asked me to compare the screenshots with his phone. There was no conversation with Leah. Ryan said Daniel had deleted it. Daniel opened his work email, call history, archived chats, and backup. Nothing matched. Then I noticed something small. One message had supposedly been sent at 7:42 on a Tuesday evening. Daniel had been sitting beside me in a hospital waiting room at that exact time. I remembered because I had sent Ryan a photo from there. Ryan said Daniel could have sent it while sitting next to me. The answer came too quickly. I asked where he got the screenshots. He said someone had sent them anonymously. I asked to see the original email. He refused. That was when my fear started turning into suspicion. I ended the reception early and left with my closest friend. Daniel went to his brother's house. I told everyone not to contact me until morning. I did not sleep. Around 4 a.m., I opened my banking app because one line from the screenshots kept bothering me. Once the wedding is over, the money is ours. Daniel and I did not have a joint account. The only large account was my personal savings. The balance should have been a little over $31,000. It showed $12,640. I checked the transaction history. There were dozens of transfers I did not recognize. Most were small. 200 here, 400 there. A few were much larger. They went back 18 months. More than $18,000 was missing. The destination account used a payment profile connected to Ryan's phone number. That was not even the worst part. When I checked my credit report, I found a credit card in my name that I had never opened. It was almost maxed out. The mailing address was my parents' house. By sunrise, my wedding no longer felt like the main disaster. I called Daniel. He came over and helped me download every statement. He did not pressure me to defend him or stay married. He only helped me organize the damage. The card had been opened using an old email address I had stopped using years earlier. Ryan knew the password. He had stayed in my apartment after losing another job, and my old laptop had been in the guest room. Suddenly, every question he asked before the wedding made sense. The house application would have exposed the card. Combining finances would have exposed the transfers. Ryan needed a crisis large enough to delay both. But the secret became worse when I called my mother. I expected shock. Instead, she went quiet. I asked whether she knew about the credit card. She said, "Ryan told us you agreed to help him." 4 months earlier, a collection letter had arrived at my parents' house. My mother opened it, confronted Ryan, and paid the minimum balance herself. She never called me. My father knew as well. They decided not to mention it because Ryan said he was starting a new job and would fix everything before I noticed. Then my father said the sentence that ended my relationship with them. "You know how your brother gets when he feels cornered." As if that explained what he had done. As if my wedding had been acceptable damage. There was still one question left. How had Ryan created the screenshots? The venue coordinator answered that the next afternoon. Ryan had asked her to print several pages before the reception. He called them a surprise for his speech. He sent the files from his own email. The image files still contained editing data. Daniel's company also confirmed that Leah had never sent the messages. Ryan had taken her profile picture from a public page and built the conversation with a fake chat generator. When I confronted him, he denied it until I read out the transfer dates. Then he stopped talking. He said he planned to return the money after a business deal worked out. He claimed the wedding speech was only meant to delay me from combining finances with Daniel. I asked why he had to humiliate Daniel in front of everyone. Ryan said, "Because you would have listened to him if I told you privately." That answer showed me how he saw me, not as his sister, as someone he could control by deciding what I knew and when I learned it. I reported the unauthorized transfers and the credit card. I gave the investigator the venue email, edited files, and Ryan's messages. The process took months. Some of the money was recovered. Some was gone. Ryan eventually admitted to identity fraud and unauthorized account access as part of a legal agreement. He was ordered to repay what remained and received additional penalties. My parents asked me to keep the family together. I told them they had already chosen what mattered to them. Daniel and I stayed married, but the damage did not disappear quickly. We started counseling because public humiliation, financial fear, and family betrayal do not vanish after one conversation. 6 months later, we had a small dinner with 12 people who had supported us without turning the day into gossip. There was no microphone, no speeches, no performance, just a quiet evening that finally felt like ours. I have not spoken to Ryan since the legal process ended. My contact with my parents is limited, and they are no longer involved in our finances or major decisions. I still hate that my wedding photos remind me of the worst hour of that year, but they also remind me that Daniel stayed calm when my family pushed him out, and that I finally stopped confusing rescue with love. My brother ruined my wedding in one afternoon, but what ended that day was not my marriage. It was the family role that had taught me to keep paying for his mistakes.